Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
I am Fennell Norton. It is April 19th, and welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. Today is a party thing. And when I say party, I mean the Democratic Party. I am a proud Democrat. You are a proud Democrat. We are all proud Democrats. We are optimistic and we are not tired. But if you do what you've always done, you will get what you always got. And this year, that is simply not enough. To get more volunteers, to do more fundraising, to integrate new ideas and energy, to expand our power to win big in 2024, up and down the ticket. One of the hallmarks to do that is the grassroots. And we are full of creativity and energy and bravery to innovate no matter the obstacle. And that's why this week on the Friday Power Lunch, we're talking about election innovators who will lead the Democratic Party to victory this November. I am so excited that we're going to have the President Pro Tempore, Senator LOUISE Lucas. She is the chairman of the powerful Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee. We're also going to have Anderson Clayton. You have seen her everywhere. She's 25, she's full of ideas, and she believes that she has found the perfect formula to win North Carolina for Joe Biden. And then we're going to have Roberta Thacker-Oliver. She is the new chair of the Rural Caucus for the Democratic Party. And you haven't heard anything until you hear from Roberta. And then we're also going to hear from candidate Ken Mitchell, who is running for Congress in Virginia District 6. And I think you're going to be pretty thrilled about the idea and what they've done for this district. Now, before we get started, let me run through show business. We are a friendly group and we support our community. But if you get out of line, you are going to get kicked out. And we do have the after chat, which is fantastic. If you want to hear some of the best ideas abound, stick around for the after chat. It'll be about 30 to 45 minutes today. And then the most important thing is to support the show. Become a Patreon of the show for as little as $5, $10, or $25 a month. It's value packed, and I'm sure that you get as much out of it as we all do. Weekly meetings build solidarity. And we do have two new Patreons, Virginia Diamond and Narelle Living. Thank you so much. And then remember, there is an audio version of the Friday Power Lunch. It's now available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Watch us roll. So you can listen to us while you're riding down the road. You can tell your friends, because we all need everything that we deliver to you, because no one is coming to save us. It is up to us. So now let's quickly have a power chat with Carrie. So Carrie, come on up.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I am doing just fine. How are you doing?
Good. Greetings from coastal Virginia, as always. I'm great. I'm super excited to have Senator LOUISE Lucas on today.
Yes, we are. So we're gonna get right to that. So we were gonna chat about stuff, but we're just too excited.
Right.
And so,
she's been a huge influence of mine. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like every time I hear her, I just channel like power. I mean, I don't know when it really started, but I just want to emulate her in any way that I can. So
well, I think you got it down. So why don't we just jump right into some stuff that you want to talk to Senator Lucas about?
Okay, wait a second.
Come on, Carrie, bring it.
I'm so proud to be down in Hampton Roads with you, Senator LOUISE Lucas. And we are just so thrilled that you can make time to be here. It's a busy week for you.
Yes, it has been.
Great. So just a little background for everyone, all the activists who are here on the show today. It was an unusually contentious budget process, I believe. And y'all were up for the reconvene this week, which was basically, as I could tell, a meeting to agree to have another meeting. But we're glad that it worked out. And I'm just curious, after Governor Youngkin was touring the Commonwealth with his backwards budget tour, and there was a lot of back and forth, barbs being traded. He was obviously playing politics the whole session. He knows how this works. Was this unusual?
It was a bit unusual, which is the reason why we decided that we were going to do a tour of our own, and it was called Virginia Families First. And I think it resonated with folks everywhere we went, all across the Commonwealth. People were listening to us when we were talking about how we need to fund K-12 education. The JLOC study says that we're woefully inadequate in terms of the way we fund our public schools. We know that we're going to need more money for Medicaid. We know that there are a plethora of other issues out there that are near and dear to the hearts of the people we represent, and we were not going to allow the governor to call our budget a backward budget when in fact we had bipartisan support on a budget that was delivered on time, and it was there was the first time in 6 years that we've had a budget to be delivered on time. And for him to call that a backwards budget when you had Republicans who supported it on both sides of the aisle, and I'm talking about both chambers, in the House and in the Senate, how do you call that backwards when you had bipartisan support on it?
So are you optimistic? I heard you and your colleagues kind of calling him out on not engaging in the budget process pretty much for the whole time until those amendments showed up. Of course, he had 4 amendments last time he went through the process. He had over 230 this time. So are you optimistic y'all are going to be able to come together and get us a budget that reflect your priorities and therefore our priorities?
Our priorities are the priorities of Virginia families. And until the governor understands that we're going to stand firm on those priorities and that we will not be moved, then I think that we can come to an agreement. Now, he's saying that the projected income is going to be enough to take care of the priorities that we have set, but I don't want to rely on speculation. I want to rely on what we have on hand. And what we have on hand is enough to pay for the priorities that we have given the new economy. At some point, we're going to have to modernize our economy. Otherwise, how are we going to pay for education? And how are we going to pay for all of the other big ticket issues that we have in the Commonwealth if we don't modernize our economy? Because now with our with streaming and downloads, we're not able to collect taxes that we would have had people gone into a big box store to buy maybe a CD or a book or whatever. And so with the loss of that revenue, we have to come up with a way to make sure that we fund our priority. We got to keep state government running, and we're not going to let Youngkin's run it in the ground.
That's right. And we are not going to see that regressive sales tax again, are we?
No, ma'am, you will not. Because see, what the governor did, he wanted to, when he came up with his idea of how we created this budget, he wanted to still give money away to his rich friends. The reason why we're in the situation that we're in now, where we're having to even think about having to come up with this new economy, is because he gave away $4 billion last year. And so had that not happened, the $4 billion that he gave away last year, we wouldn't be in the fix that we're in now. We're looking down the road. And what we said to the governor, I was sitting at the table with him, and I said, Governor, how are we going to be looking 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now? And he said, well, I'm not going to be here. My point exactly. You're not going to have to worry about it, but we will. And we're going to make sure that we have the funding to make sure that we keep K-12 education afloat, that we make sure we take care of our institutions of higher learning, that we make sure that we take care of mental health issues, all of the issues that are important to Virginia families. That's what we're going to be looking to do.
And meanwhile, the people we elected, Democratic delegates that I had heard from, were very proud of this budget. They said that it accomplished a lot of the priorities. So, I mean, what are the key points? You mentioned education. What are the key points in your budget, in the budget that the Democrats agreed upon? What can we expect will be the priorities that will get through those negotiations?
Well, I'm telling you, this budget was balanced and on time, and the same issues that we presented in the first budget, we will present in this budget when we go back in May. I'm not about trying to trim any of the issues, of any of the items that we have in our budget, because these are the budget items that help Virginia families. And so we're going to have to find a way to pay for them because we're not going to back off of them.
And we thank you for that. We thank you for that. We worked hard to get those delegates and senators up there. We worked hard to get you as Senator Pro Tem. That was important to us. That was part of our agenda with all the activists who were on the show in Virginia and outside of Virginia, working their butts off to get you there. And we're
Absolutely.
very proud. We're very proud of the leadership that you have shown. Now, I'm curious about this education stuff because let me tell you, I was really disappointed he vetoed that bill to allow localities to add a sales tax for themselves.
1 cent sales tax for themselves so that they can be able to fund their school construction. Now,
it's direct conflict.
You're talking about backward. You're talking about backward. How backward was that?
Right. And he ran on local control and crumbling schools.
Yes.
What's going to happen to this guy? I mean, we know he's not going to be around forever. Thank God.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's got 20 months and we've got the rest of the session, got the rest of our term. For those of us who were elected in the Senate, we got 3.5 years to go.
So, do you hear that? Did you hear the tick, 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 tick?
That's right. Tick, tick, tick. His time is ticking down. He is definitely lamed up. And I tell you, I just keep telling them, buckle up because it's going to be a long ass 20 months.
Right. And y'all are just so prepared. I mean, you're so prepared for this.
I am so ready for this fight. I tell you, I am just about to barely contain myself.
I love some of the posts that you posted, of course, like I'm going back to Richmond and I'm ready. Wearing the red.
I wish I had your blue gloves to go with my blue background here.
You can, I'll loan them to you. I'll loan them to you. Well, I'm hoping we've got a little bit of time. I'm hoping you can dish with me a little bit. Okay. So I have to ask, first of all, do you have to have a relationship with Winsome Sears and Senator McDougal? Now, Winsome Sears lived in Norfolk for a little while, and there are some people who just kind of think she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. How's she doing up?
I think you nailed it. Now, as long as she stays in her lane, she's okay, because all she has to do is preside over the Senate. And when there's a call to determine whether or not there's a germaneness issue, she oftentimes will call the attorneys up. Usually it's McDougal from the R side, and on our side it's probably going to be maybe Scott Serval and a few other people. But on a germaneness issues, she does not normally decide those on her own. So I'll give her credit for that. She'll let others come in and help her with that decision. But overall, when you're just going to preside over the body, as long as you continue to do that, fine and dandy. But when she starts stepping into the political part of it, then we got a problem, because she is not a member of the Senate. She is the lieutenant governor, and it's her job to preside and not to legislate.
And I'd like her to just kind of keep her cuckoo to herself. Just, that's my personal opinion. So, all right. I know you probably don't like to weigh in too much on congressional politics, but we had a little episode this week with somebody not really doing his homework about the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia, because he's not.
I did weigh in on it. I thought it was so insensitive of him not to at least do his homework to find out that he had the wrong flag.
I mean,
a flag that is, the insensitivity was beyond anything that I could have expected for somebody running for Congress.
Right.
And it was offensive to a lot of people, and I did call it out, and I will continue to call it out. Of course, he did apologize. But the thing of it is, he said, well, maybe we ought to change the flag.
That's not our flag.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, really? Change the flag? Change the flag? No. What you need to do is do your homework.
Exactly. And you asked him twice for an apology.
I did. He finally apologized. But it was almost like a day late, dollar short, kind of thing. But yes, I think when we see issues like that surface, we have an inescapable responsibility to call those things out, because if we don't call them out, then it mushrooms. They do it more often and oftentimes more egregious. And so it's up to us to stand up to the bullies, to the naysayers, to the folks who don't know their history. We have to teach them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a legacy here in the Commonwealth that we need to be aware of it at all times to overcome. So
that's right.
He kind of stepped in it. So I'm just so glad that you had the time to join us this morning. What's between now and that May 17th meeting? What's happening? What can we expect?
Well, we had a little brief discussion, and I told the governor, I said, Governor, as long as you don't start talking about taking funding off the table that will prevent us from funding our priorities, then we can get there. But if you come up with that same backward rhetoric that you use on your little tour, then I'm coming out of my frame.
And then how can he
and I are going to be at it again.
I mean, I'm just pulling out my gloves again because I'm ready to use them. So for the activists on the show, right? We want to help. We want to weigh in. We want to have something to do. Is there any way that we can help fight back?
Oh, absolutely. You have this time between now and the time that we go back on May 13th, send letters, calls, whatever, and let the governor know what issues are important to you and that we will not be moved on those issues. Yes, you call the governor's office, call his administrator, anybody you can get that has an ear to the governor, call them and let them know the issues that are important to you and tell them that you're going to stand behind us when we go back on May 13th.
Yes, absolutely. We got your back.
Just like people did with the arena.
Well,
we will not back that.
It's funny you should bring that up. I wasn't going to bring that up because we've talked about it a little bit on this show before, but come on. I mean, come on. He didn't do the right thing. He didn't have the sit downs. I mean, he knows the Virginia way, right? What was behind all of that?
One would hope that he knew, but he pretended that it wasn't important. And how he could just dismiss those of us in leadership, and especially those of us on Senate Finance and in House Appropriations, for him to dismiss that group of people in this discussion is a mystery to me. But you know what? I didn't have to hear all of what he had to say or all of what the folks up in at Potomac Mills had to say, because the minute I heard that we were going to obligate $1.5 billion of taxpayers' dollars to help them get that thing to the finish line, I didn't need to hear anymore. I was done right there. That was it for me.
That's right. Speaking of other men who don't do their homework, I mean, they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't meet with the community members. The citizens really pushed against that in Northern Virginia.
Yes, they did.
So I mean, it was DOA, and we were really glad that you called him to task on that, because he can't treat us that way.
Not on my watch.
Yeah, and we thank you for that. That's why we wanted you there, and that's what we're counting on. So we really appreciate it. Well, Senator Louise Lucas, we are so grateful for the time you gave us today. We know that you hit the ground running this week. I know you had a big event down here with some of your supporters. Welcome home. And we thank you for everything you're doing for us.
My pleasure. Call on me anytime. I'll be there. I'm grassroots. I always have been, and that's where I'll stay.
Fantastic. So we're going to get Fanal back on here to say her thank you. And then we're going to be moving on with the next segment. Hey, Fanal. I think you're on mute.
Fanal, you're on mute.
Oh, someone didn't unmute you.
Oh, yeah. See, someone's supposed to do that. Senator Lucas, I think she's gone now, but I wanted to say hello from the Eastern Shore. We always enjoy seeing you here.
Thank you. I was just about to sign off, but I did hear you. So thank you so very much for that.
You're welcome.
You all have a good evening. I'm off to my next mission.
All right. Go to your next mission.
See you out there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, Carrie.
Awesome.
That was Zoom. That was a Zoom faux pas not to have my mic on. But you know, we're supposed to have handlers too.
It happens to the best of us. It happens to the best.
Yeah. But guess what? Go ahead.
No, just wanted to recap. So, it's kind of funny she brought up the arena, because I wasn't going to bring that up, but I had to bring up that flag thing. So just everybody who's listening in. So there's a history of flags. Obviously, when you get started in the 1600s, you go through quite a few flags. And apparently there's a little flag that was hanging in the background that had been one of our previous flags. It was actually from 1861. So it had been picked up at one point by the Confederates, but we can't really call it a Confederate flag. Nevertheless, extremely tone deaf to be behind this flag. And then when someone called his attention to this old flag from 1861, he said, well, yeah, I think Virginia needs to change their flag. Well, That's not our flag. That goes in the long dump of old flags along with the Confederate flag that were Virginia's flags. We don't know. So if you're going to pose in front of the flag, in front of the Commonwealth of Virginia, your new home, you might want to do your homework, Vidman, who's running for Congress in the 7th. You might want to do your homework about what your flag looks like before you run for office. But anyway, made a little faux pas, and it got picked up nationally and made a big stink.
I was going to say that's way bigger than my mute faux pas. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Lesson to your kids: know your flag.
Yeah. Well, Carrie, thank you. We'll be able to chat a little more later, but now we're going to have an opportunity to talk to Anderson Clayton, who is the Democratic chair, state chair for North Carolina. Anderson, hello. How are you, Chairwoman?
I'm wonderful. Thank y'all for having me on here. And also, thank you for not adding in the part that I feel like everyone always sticks in there, which is the youngest. I appreciate that of this chairwoman. So
you are welcome. You are welcome, Chairwoman. You are welcome. Listen, I am so excited. So I will tell you that I have seen you everywhere, and I'm sure everyone on this call has seen you everywhere. You're in Politico, you're on MSNBC, you're on all the news, and that is because we are so excited about your ideas. We're so excited about your enthusiasm. And we are so excited that you are in North Carolina because we got to win that state. So why don't you just start with how you got here?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you all so much for the opportunity to be here. And also just thank you for the work that you do, volunteers on the ground. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm like, the last 4 years of the pandemic and just the last sort of isolationism that we have been through in that, and just the not having that sort of community, right? And I think one of the best things that people in spaces like this do is build community. And so thank you all for doing that and choosing to spend your time with us, because I think it's the most finite thing that you have. And I really value that. The Democratic Party right now needs every single bit of it, to be honest. And so I'm from rural North Carolina in Person County. I like to joke with folks, like, if you would know where Danville, Virginia is, if you go about a little 30 minutes down, you're going to hit me in Roxborough. And so I've always been a little bit familiar with that sort of area of Virginia, and just growing up in a border county. But I always spent most of my life thinking that I needed to get the hell out of rural North Carolina, to be honest with y'all, because most of the things that I thought I wanted to do with my life, people looked at me and they said, you can't do those here. And I think that that's something that's really restricting, and something that young people are oftentimes told, especially if you grow up in a rural part of any state or in the country or whatnot, is that you kind of got to go somewhere else to do something with your life. And even kind of if you grow up in the South, right, in general, people say you need to go somewhere else to kind of become something if you want to do something greater. And so for me, I really took that and I believed it. I went to Appalachian State University and I majored in journalism and political science. I joke with folks, I want to be the next Anderson Cooper before I became Anderson Clayton. I wrote him a letter when I was in 6th grade, and I was like, oh, I could just take over your show. AC 360 could be mine, baby. And it became an idea that I wanted to go into journalism. And politics really got me, you know, when I got into college, because in 2016 in North Carolina, Republicans decided, you know, how are we going to disenfranchise college students the most this year? And so they took away college voting sites across schools across the UNC system, and Appalachian State was one of them. And I'm really grateful because I had a county party in Watauga County in the mountains of rural Western North Carolina that was like, hell no, we're not going to go down without a fight. And they sued the State Board of Elections to keep a voting site on campus that year. And they took the money that they raised from their plant sale every year, and they hired lawyers, and they did what no other county in the entire state of North Carolina did. Not Mecklenburg County, where Charlotte is, not Wake County, where Raleigh is. Little tiny Watauga County was like, we're going to sue. We're going to take y'all's asses to court. And we're going to utilize every single tool in our toolkit to make sure that we do this. And in 2016 in North Carolina, when the state itself went red, right, for Donald Trump nationally, and Watauga County in the mountains for the first time went blue, because that voting site stayed on that college campus, because those folks won that lawsuit that year. And people like Pam Williamson and Stella Anderson and people that were on the trenches and on the ground pulled people together, and they fought for that voting site. And it's something that when you think about what's the importance and what's the power of people just owning a piece of an election, You ain't got to change the whole thing, but just owning your backyard and understanding what your power is in your own backyard, you can do amazing things. And so that kind of is where the political bug bit me, because it was for the first time a win that I saw in politics happen. And so many students came out to vote that year, and I got really, really involved. And so I went afterwards. I worked in Iowa for Kamala Harris's campaign and worked nationally. And so have been sort of around the states, and usually only in rural places. I like to say that I'm a rural organizer through and through. But really, Kamala's campaign is what helped me love rural organizing again. Rural Iowa, being out there and finding Democrats that just felt like they hadn't been talked to or spoken to in a really long time, and just feeling like they were isolated and alienated and feeling left behind by our party. And I'm like, no, our party loves you too. And our party can't be a party that cedes ground anywhere to a party that has endorsed white supremacy, the demise of a democracy, and fundamentally doesn't believe in rights for anyone that's not white, straight, and male. And I came home after 2020. So I worked in 2021 back in North Carolina. I became the chair of my local Democratic Party in Person County, back from my hometown where I was from. And I flipped 3 city council seats with the Person County Democrats. And we flipped the Roxborough City Council from red to blue for the first time in history. And people looked at me and they thought a miracle had happened. And I said, well, the city of Roxborough is 51% Black. So honestly, it should have happened a long time ago. And there are places all over our state where this can still be happening, and where we could be having local Democrats that are elected everywhere. And so in 2022, we had a really great success with Ray Jeffers, who's a farmer from Person County that is now elected into the state legislature. And so, really exciting moments happened there. And I decided after 2022 to run for state party chair. And so that was a sort of an election with a lot of young people from across the state of North Carolina that wanted to see a party that wanted to, invest in and create opportunities in all 100 counties, not just in ones where we had Democratic power already built up in. And so really investing in the ground, and we started to do that. But we're really excited, and thank y'all for being here. And that is how I got here.
Well, that is how you got here. That is a fantastic story. So I have a question for you. So when you started to do this work in these counties that no one had paid attention to, which is really interesting, because sometimes it really is just about the data, right? So if you're going to dig into the data and understand where people are. I heard someone once say, we don't have a Democratic Party, we have a turnout problem. And so it sounds like that there was a turnout problem. So were you turning out Republicans, or were you turning out disaffected Democrats, or both?
Disaffected Democrats, right? But we would talk to anybody. And I think that's the thing, is like, I say it all the time in this election cycle. I'm like, everybody is somebody worth talking to, whether or not how they're registered, it really doesn't matter, because I think a lot of people care about preserving democracy this year. I think a lot of people care about fundamental rights this year. And I don't think that is like a semblance of just one party or the other. I think that's like how people feel about something and should. And so I think the other side to that to me is just that we needed to make sure that we were contesting every single race across the state this year. We wanted to make sure that people in North Carolina, regardless of what county you were in, had somebody to vote for. The North Carolina Democratic Party in 2022, we left 44 seats uncontested for our state legislature. It was the most we had ever left uncontested in state history. 3 million North Carolinians didn't have somebody on the state legislative level to vote for, right? You had folks 45 counties lost a Democratic representative in North Carolina in 2022. We flipped 1 county commissioner seat in the entire state that year from red to blue, and that was it. And it was in Buncombe County, where Asheville was. Like, we had just fundamentally lost ground in the state. And when you think about like, what's the job of a party right now? It is to build political power. It's to build our base's power, right? And so I think a lot of these Democrats, and that's because like Republicans in North Carolina have had control of our state since 2010. Don't get me wrong. Like, they have been strategically, and that like this has been a plan, right, that they have had in their brain to make people feel alienated, to disaffect voters, right? A fun fact for y'all, though, that I like to tell people, North Carolina has the second highest rural population of any other state in the country besides Texas. We have 20 majority minority counties still, and that is like across the state. Only 2 of those are major metropolitan counties, though, or urban counties, right? You got Mecklenburg and you got Durham. And so looking at the rest of where those counties are, like, those are rural counties in eastern North Carolina that are Black and brown voters that are not turning out to vote right now. We lost 7 of them in the statewide elections for judicial races in 2022. And so looking at where we need to get back to and actually like organizing ourselves in is showing up in those communities again, and revitalizing the efforts of the party there and letting people know that the Democrats still exist here. It's a base problem. It's a turnout problem. It's a galvanizing problem. It's an energy problem. I feel like my vote doesn't matter problem, right? You know, you have North Carolina is the most gerrymandered state in the country right now. And you have folks that have legislators that don't have to answer the phones for constituency services. And so people feel like government doesn't work for them anymore. I mean, Republicans have done a lot down here to make that happen.
Yeah, you know, one of my favorite sayings is from Linda Hersham from The Color of Abolition, and she always says to make injustice public. And I think you're absolutely right. People get disaffected because they don't know stuff. And so you have to figure out. So you're organizing, you're getting out in those places. What are you finding is the messages that are resonating as you are out in the community?
That we're showing up. I mean, a lot of people want to know what's going on in Raleigh. They don't know who to blame. And I think to your point of that, people like the education that we have to do. I tell people the name of the game in North Carolina this year is voter education. It is giving people like, here is who you're actually mad at right now. Did you know that the state legislature has kept people in your community from getting health care for 10 years right now? They had the opportunity to do that. Did you know that the legislature is what's keeping 725 minimum wage laws right now in place in North Carolina, when most of the folks in rural communities are working at jobs from Walmart and from McDonald's, from service jobs, from corporations that are making a ton of money this year, right, in surplus, and they're not paying you what you need right now because that's not being enforced by our state legislature. The fact that like unionization, right, is a huge effort and movement that's happening. I tell people, I'm like, the reason why Bidenomics is not working in the South right now is because Biden's building a union economy. I'm a right to work state. I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know about y'all, but I'm like, I'm still sitting down here in a little bit of a shit show in some ways in that, excuse my language, but I'm like, it really is. And I mean, most Southern states are. And then you look at the fact that like 55% of Black Americans live in the South right now. And so I'm like, our base really can't feel what this party is doing for them because like you've got state legislatures right now that are working against a federal government and a federal policy that's trying to uplift everybody.
Yeah, I see that all the time. And I would say, why don't we have a strategy for Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas? These states had the highest Black populations in the country, and we just let them go every single year. And I'm just like, what the ham sandwich? But my next question for you is this, Anderson. This is what I want to know. I know
but sorry. And also I'm in rural North Carolina, so my internet is terrible right now. I apologize about that.
It's okay, but you gave me finger snaps, so I'm really happy about that. So what I want to know though is I know that there must be people who push against what you're trying to sell and what you're delivering. How do you work against that?
I mean, I think I show them that showing up in these communities makes people want to come back to our party. And I feel like people feel that right now. You know, the movement across North Carolina is electric. We're showing up in counties that people haven't been to in a while. And I really feel like we can say that we're truly organizing from Murphy to Manteo. And I think that it is about showing people the power of these communities.
And so let me say this, when we hear organizing, I think people get a little bit frightened about what that means. When you think of organizing in its simplest terms, for anybody on this call today could go out and organize, what would you tell them to do?
I would say go to your phone and ask every single person in it if they voted last year. That's organizing. Organize the people in your community before you try to go out and organize other people, okay? And that's something that's hard because the hardest people for us to organize are the folks that are in our own families and our own networks. Those are the hardest conversations to have. But they're the people that actually, you know, need to hear from you because how elections are going to be won this year is not it's not on television, it's not on social media. It's going to be through friends and family. Those are the two places right now that the number one place that people get their information from are their networks. And so be a place for folks to get information. Go out and own who you're going to vote for this year, even when it's hard, and have those conversations with people that you love. my favorite saying is that you can't organize those that you don't love. And I think that that's something that we've got to really bring into focus this year more than anything, because I know it's easy to hate the other side right now.
I call it the 6 degrees of separation, that we always say, oh, young people aren't doing this and Black people aren't doing this and somebody isn't doing this. And I go, well, you know what? They didn't fall from the sky. These are the people in your family. So go talk to them. Go talk to them and let them know what's happening. So I love that too. And I also, I do think that one of the other things that we can do is partner with each other. And that's what Network Nova is all about, is amplifying the voice of the grassroots, amplifying the voices like you. We can probably work together. I want to be sure that you meet Lindley Thorne from Real Ground Game, who is amazing. And believe it or not, oops, I think we might have lost her. She'll come back. We'll give her a chance to come back. Robin? Oh, Robin!
Yes, we lost her. I'm going to bring Carrie up and you guys can chat about this. And as soon as Anderson comes back in, oh, wait, she's coming back in right now. So I'm going to bring her up.
Sorry.
Oh, wait. Okay. Anderson's up. Okay.
About that rural broadband, right?
It is okay. I was saying, yeah, we got to get that broadband working. I was going to say, I was telling you that Lindley Thorne from Real Ground Game is amazing. And you and her think a lot alike. And so the partnership would be excellent for all of us across Virginia and everywhere else that you touch. And so my next question, well, it's not really a question because this is really a conversation, but you are so energized. I want to tell you that I follow you on Twitter and you are there all the time. Please tell me how you do that, because it is amazing. It is, I'm like, how is she here all the time? How is she here everywhere getting these messages out? So what is your schedule like? What are you doing, girl?
I don't know. It's a bit like, I think that people underestimate how great young people are at multitasking. And so, and that's something that I've been told a lot, is like how much that, folks see young people sort of communicating through multiple different like messages all the time, and sort of like the idea of it. And I don't know. I think like tweeting for me has always been something that's so easy, because it's like, it's my quick thoughts, like I'll be sitting somewhere and I'll be thinking about something and I'll be like, oh, that is just, I need to say that right now. And I do it. And sometimes that bodes well. Sometimes it doesn't for me right too. I don't know. But I think that I got a message one time and someone was like, do you just sit down every week and like think about how to put out bangers? And I was like, no, it is really just like a moment in time. And I think it's important to like take people along with me, because none of my days are the same. And I think that that's kind of hard to think about sometimes, but like, it's a lot of driving, right? It's a lot of being on the road. And so it's a lot of like me stopping to get gas somewhere and then thinking of like, I'm going to shout out a county chair. I'm going to post where I just was. And I learned a lot, like Kamala's campaign. There was a woman on there named Miranda Berry who talked a lot about digital organizing. And she said, one of the ways to really get people, I think that like, to tell the story, right? Like you need to tell the story of what you're doing and where you're going and who you're talking to. And I have people now that tell me, they're like, I get up every day and the first thing I do is look at your Twitter, because like there's a series of sort of just events. And I also am sort of uplifting our candidates right now. I'm trying to get their platforms. So like people are hearing a like cultivated democratic message on a platform. And I know that folks have their problems with Twitter right now, which is also why I'm still calling it Twitter and not X, which you can probably tell that too. But, it's the thing. And so I'm just like, but that's where I found a lot of just like base building. And Instagram now is sort of becoming that. I'm trying to get on TikTok more. Like, I really want to utilize social media to connect with people, because if I've ever needed anything from folks, I've asked the internet. And the internet has never let me down. Like the internet's always delivered for me, even in like the crunchiest of times that I've had. I'm like, oh gosh, I need this immediately, and someone's come through. And so I'm like, you don't get what you don't ask for.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I will tell you that you're on my notification, so sometimes it's hard for me to pay attention because I go, oh, what is Anderson saying? And so. But
I wonder, anytime I try never to delete a tweet either. That is something too. I want to always own what I say. I don't have Twitter Blue, so I can't edit my tweets. Like if I make a typo or something in there, you'll see in the like replies of mine, I'm like, oh no, didn't mean to do that. Sorry everybody. Like this is how it's supposed to be spelled or something like that. But I always wonder whenever I delete a tweet, the folks that have Twitter notifications on for me, if they see that and they're like, she fucked up today. It's just, I don't know. It's really funny. It's really weird.
I don't say that at all. And I also want to say in terms of rural, in terms of what the opportunities are, because it is across the country. But I do think North Carolina will matter and Virginia will matter. And later on, we're going to be talking to Roberta Thacker-Oliver, and she is part of rural Virginia. And she can tell you how many disaffected people are out there. And if we could just talk to them, there are so many places that we could win. Tell me, so what have I not asked you today that I should have asked you to make sure that we talk about?
I think just something important for me to say is kind of like how we're doing that right now. The state party invested this year in a year-round organizing program. And so I have 3 organizers that came on in September of last year that really helped us win a lot of municipal races in 2023 across the state. And so we have been really building a lot of organic momentum. And like we started with a municipal program in 2023, and we're going to keep that up and going to 2025. We contested 1,100 out of 1,600 municipal races across the state in 2023. And that sort of gave us this like really big energy push. And I just think it's so important to utilize local elections like that. But Project 100 is what we're calling it. It's like something similar to what Michigan State Party has, and also what the Wisconsin State Party has for their sort of year-round organizing programs too. And we're doubling that program right now. And a big shout out to Simon Rosenberg, who helped us raise a good amount of money to be able to do that this last year. And he has just been phenomenal and a good Virginian in that sense too. But he was someone that really made a case for why we needed to invest in North Carolina this cycle. And so we have 5 organizers, a organizing director and a training director on the ground. And we've been able to do canvases with like partnering with county parties this year in 24 or 25 counties already. We've got 19 more scheduled, and we're going to be in every county before the end of the summer, essentially, with an organizing program. And I think that that is something that's really exciting and cool and sort of more distributed from a state party, and something that we're going to try to continue to build, because I think that that is the most important thing in North Carolina, is just boots on the ground energy this year. And how can we get out and talk to every single person? So. Yeah.
For those who might be just joining, we're talking to Anderson Clayton, the Democratic State Chair for North Carolina. Anderson, finally, as we sort of round this out, you are absolutely right. I love Project 100, the goal to get out to every single one. Are there any state party chairs that you look at and you go, wow, this is a great model in terms of some ideas that I might glean from them?
Yeah, Ben Wickler in Wisconsin, Lavora Barnes in Michigan, Shasty Conrad in Washington, who's also a very young state party chair, and Yoli Barando, who's in Arizona. She's amazing. And then also Nikki Fried in Florida. So there's a lot of them out there that I get a lot of ideas from, and a lot of support.
Has there been any idea that you said, geez, I don't know that that can work, and you tried it, or something that you're thinking about trying?
Honestly, I've got a lot of ideas, and I think sometimes what I realize is like we need to be building, like North Carolina is in a very like still building phase, right? And infrastructure takes a lot of time. And so I think before you have like the next big ideas and you look at what everyone else is doing and is like, oh, I should be there, you're like, oh, I need to get it right here first. Like I need to get our base level. And so, like Michigan, right, has got 14 organizers on the ground. Like they fund a full, like 1 per congressional district. And we've only got 5 right now. And I was kind of like, I'm building that. You know what I mean? Like that's something that maybe hopefully we'll get to in time, but not really sure how that's going to, if it's going to be possible, like in the next like year, if it's going to take 2 years, or sort of how does that happen? So I guess I'm trying to be more realistic in some ways too now. Not like my idea journal has not grown, but like also what's feasible. And also things cost a lot of money, which is also the most interesting thing that I've realized. And like, what are like an organizer in North Carolina is around $60,000, right? Like salary wise. And I just think a lot of times people don't think about how much it really does cost for a state party to have an effective operation. But year-round programs is something that I'd really like to see us get to in future cycles too, everywhere.
Yeah, I want to jump in here and say, like, we're in the grassroots, we're always promoting year round, because we in Virginia have elections every single year. And we do love the energy coming out of rural. We love, as
So do we.
Fennell
Just
mentioned.
not.
No, go
So
ahead.
do we. I promise.
Yeah, we do love that rural energy.
All right, so thank you so much, Anderson Clayton,
Thank y'all.
Democratic Chair for North Carolina. Chairwoman, thank you so much for being with us today.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for all that you do.
Carrie, that's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've got CD2 down here, and we're looking at more rural areas, and there are a lot of us that feel really unequipped for rural. So we're really looking forward to taking leadership from our next guest. Actually, I'm just going to slip off and hear what she has to say about us for rural.
All right, thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, welcome, Roberta.
Roberta, how are you?
Hey, Fennell, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very good, thank you. So I'm going to let you get started, but you guys have an important event coming up for rural, right?
Just a little thing.
Well, why don't we talk about that little thing first? So
Okay.
Roberta Thacker-Oliver, who is the new chair for the Rural Caucus. So Roberta, tell us the new thing that's coming up.
Well, as everyone knows, the Rural Caucus has been around for about 12 years right now. And when COVID hit, of course, right, like everything else, it kind of shut down itself because we couldn't do things. And then when everyone got comfortable with shut down, we all know how that goes. And the party decided that it's time, with the help of everyone else, that it was time to revamp the Rural Caucus. And I thought I could probably do some work here. So they reorganized and had an election, and here I am. And I met with our executive committee, and I said, the rural retreat's been a thing that we've always done. Why don't we just start off with a big thing, and then we'll go from there? So we've been working on the rural retreat since. The rural retreat is May 3rd through 5th. It's at Natural Bridge Historic Hotel and Conference Center in Natural Bridge. It starts on Friday evening the 3rd, and it'll just be a mixer, cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, speakers. The most exciting thing is Ken Mitchell, who is on the call, will be speaking that night. And Cecil Roberts, who is the president of the UMWA, United Mine Workers of America, is going to be our keynote speaker that night.
That's awesome.
Anybody that can teach us about organizing in rural spaces, I can't imagine that it wouldn't be Cecil Roberts. And if you hadn't had the opportunity to hear him speak, it will be worth the trip just for that, because he's a powerhouse.
Wow. Well, so someone's going to put in the chat all the information about the Rural Caucus that's coming up. I'm going to be there, so I'm very excited about that. So Roberta, tell us what else you hope to gain from from this retreat.
Well, what we're hoping is we're doing a lot of sessions on Saturday. Those sessions were things that people have come to us and talked about. And traditionally, when we have any of these kind of events, all the sessions are in separate rooms, and everybody runs down the hallway like they're in high school, trying to find the right room, peeking in the wrong door, saying, oops, sorry, and getting out. And I didn't want to do that, because I think we do our best work when we hear from each other and we talk with each other. So the cool thing about this retreat is that we're having it in one very large ballroom. We're only having 6 sessions intentionally so that people have time to hear from each other and learn from each other and talk to each other as we go throughout the day. And what I'm hoping to gain from that is for everyone that attends to have a new friend who lives in a rural space, who does the same work, and collaborate and work on those ideas together and find new ways to do things, and find that their idea that they thought about but weren't sure about might actually be working somewhere, and we can move that in a bigger way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my excitement for Saturday day. Our 6 sessions are about messaging in rural spaces, and Teresa Purcell is our facilitator for that session. Teresa Purcell is from Rural Strong, and she lives in Washington State, and she's coming out to do this. And she was the lead advisor with the DNC when they put Rural Strong together in 2022. So she's got a lot of insight and a lot of information to share with everyone. We have a session that we're going to talk about running for rural office, and not just not knowing what to do besides say, I want to run for office, but the nuts and bolts to the part about how you go about that.
and what a campaign looks like. And we have Jay Jones from Meet Our Moment and Lindley Thorne from Rural Grain facilitating that. We have a lot of good things that are going on. I've invited Matt Royer, who is the Young Dems president, to come and speak. And I don't know if he was more excited to come or if I was more excited that he said yes, because we talk about we need young people, but we don't always connect committees and young people. So that's a whole underlying message of my weekend retreat, is for people to learn that young people are doing the thing and how they do the thing, and then go back to those conversations and learn from each other and learn how to work together in a different way. So those are probably the three big ones. We're going to talk about school board. We're going to talk about what it's really like to be a chair, and CD4 Chair Alexis Rogers is going to facilitate that. And then the most exciting part of Saturday day is that Network Nova is going to do a rural power lunch through our lunch, and I could not be more excited for that. And I appreciate you all for doing that and talking about how you can work with rural spaces and hearing about what rural spaces really need from your help. And then Saturday evening, we have a list of speakers and a big dinner. And Sunday morning, we're going to have Donuts with Democrats, and DPVA is sending people down to take your questions. I think it's going to be great.
I think it's going to be great too. I hope that there will be a bunch of people on here who sign up who are from rural communities, as well as folks who are not from rural communities, because we all have to do this together. Thank you. We have Roberta Thacker-Oliver, who's the new Democratic chair of the Rural Caucus. Roberta, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in person May 3rd.
I appreciate it, Fennell. Thank you. I look forward to seeing all of you there.
Thank you. Now we're going to bring up Ken Mitchell. I'm so excited. So Ken Mitchell is actually running for, it's CD, the Virginia 6th Congressional District. So we're going to talk about your strategy to connect with voters, and it is a little bit different. Ken, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Fennell. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Congratulations on making the run. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about the strategy that you and the former candidate took in order for you to win this race.
Very, very good. Well, I am, I come from very humble roots. My great-grandfather was a coal miner up in West Virginia. I come from a military family where my father, my brother, and I all served and retired from the military. We had 78 years combined service between the three of us. I served for 24 years in the military. In the last 6 years of that, I served in the White House under Bush 41 administration and under Clinton administration. So I had seen how democracy works at the highest levels. After retiring from the military, I went into corporate America, building out broadband services in major metropolitan areas. And I'm looking forward to taking that experience to expand broadband build out into the rural reaches, especially here in the 6th District. After that, I opened my business in historic restoration and renovations. And that led me to work at Thomas Jefferson Foundation Monticello, where I oversaw the infrastructure improvement of that World Heritage Site. So I'm very proud of that work. And following that, I worked in a civil engineering firm building out water and wastewater treatment plants here in the Congressional 6th District in Woodstock, Elkton, working on stormwater management in Roanoke, and some line improvements and stuff out in the Augusta, Stanton, Waynesboro area. So I've got quite a mixture of military experience in business and building experience. From a personal standpoint, I'm the proud father of two very accomplished young women, both educated in the Virginia School District, public schools, and graduates of UVA and JMU, and they are pediatric nurse practitioners. And I'm the proud grandfather of 5 grandchildren, 3 granddaughters, and 2 grandsons.
Wow, That is pretty amazing. Now let's move on to, and hopefully all of these folks are behind you, which we know that they are. But in the 6th district, you guys did something very different in order for you to be here today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we did, and what we've taken an approach of reaching out into the communities and having community engagement, and including, we're going to be doing town hall meetings, meeting with all of like the Ruritan clubs, and we're reaching out from the middle and leading from the middle. We're going to be reaching out to our independent voters and some of our moderate Republicans, and we're going to need their vote and their support to win this. And we are also reaching out heavily to our Democratic base, but we're going to need both the independent and some of that moderate Republican vote to really pull this off.
Good. That is pretty awesome. And so, but when you became the candidate, you were multiple in the primary that was going to be in the primary, but you guys decided that it was going to be you. Is the person who was also running against you in the primary, are you guys partners now?
Yeah, very much so, very much so. We found out that between the two of us, you couldn't slide a piece of paper on where we were in a strong national defense and defending democracy. And what we ended up on is, geographically, I'm from the middle of the district. I'd been here longer in the district, and my roots run much deeper than Rod's did. So over a beer, we sat down and chatted, and we decided that it was not going to be beneficial for the Democratic Party if we ran a long, protracted primary. So we reached middle ground on that, and and just with dignity and grace, he said, "Hey, I'm going to let you step forward for it." So very thankful to him.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. For those of you just joining again, that's Ken Mitchell from the 6th Congressional District. Ken, thank you so much, and good luck to you, and we hope to see you again on the Friday Power Lunch.
Thank you so much, and it has been great being here with you. I have to say this is one of the most fun events that I've had since I've been running now, and it truly shows the power of the women.
Oh, well, thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you.
Carrie, we have just a few minutes to close, and I know we have so much to say, but before we do that, I just want to thank the guests today on the show, Senator LOUISE Lucas, Anderson Clayton, Roberta Thacker-Oliver, and of course, Ken Mitchell. So it's been awesome. But you want to tell us a little bit about next week's show?
Well, first of all, I think we'd be remiss to not mention one of the biggest news items of the week. I don't know if you saw it in the New York Times or the WAPO, but the Women's Summit has launched. So we sent out information about that. We got our logo coming out. We've got our hotel link will be ready soon. It's not out yet, but we've got all kinds of information coming out on the Network Nova website. I think Heidi's going to drop the link to the chat so you can get more information about that. I am super excited, and I hope that the candidates will be there. I definitely want to send Senator LOUISE Lucas, a set of those blue boxing gloves with her invitation to talk at the Women's Summit, because I think that would be fantastic to have her. I enjoyed the Women's Summit so much. I got to meet so many amazing grassroots activists there, heard so many great speakers, and really connected with a lot of fantastic, badass women and guys. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I just wanted to make sure we got that out so everyone can start getting excited about the Women's Summit. It's going to be up at Tyson's June 28th through 29th, and we will all be there in full force. And there will, of course, will be a live Friday Power Lunch as a part of the pre-game activities. So that's kind of cool.
Also get your tickets May 1st. And so there's an early bird special for your tickets. So get your tickets now, May 1st. Get them now.
Get them in there, early birds.
Get them in there, early birds.
Special shout out to Catherine White, the biggest early bird. She's watching today from San Francisco. So thanks for going to San Francisco and giving me a turn to interview LOUISE Lucas. That was fantastic.
I know. And you know what else? When you go to the site to look, you'll see that the hotel prices are really, really good if you get in now. So get your ticket now, get your hotel now. All the information to register is there, June 28th to 29th, Tyson's, all there. So
okay.
Next week's show, Carrie, can you do that?
Well, all right, fantastic. So for next week, it's of course it's the last Friday of the month, so it's the national show. So we're going to have Susan Lavandabar and Andy Liebman, Swing Blue Alliance Voter Registration Initiative. We always love hearing from Susan, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. We'll have Laura Brill from the Civic Center talk about youth voter registration. COVA Coalition's involved in getting out the vote with the young folks down here in Hampton Roads. Their program is called, for seniors, is called Cap, Gown, and Ballot. Should be a package deal, in my opinion. Andrea Miller, of course, Center for Common Ground, is going to talk about registering Black and Brown voters, and the new tool, ActiVote. So we're going to learn how to use another tool together to protect democracy and get out the vote. And then Deborah Taylor, Red to Blue, will talk about how they act as the back office for organizations that register new voters. So it's always great to have new resources. So we're going to learn all about that nationally. So lots of great takeaways. Too many to talk about. We'll have to bounce that over to the after chat.
Exactly. And you know how I love tools anyway. And so just a reminder that the new audio version of the Friday Power Lunch is now available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you missed it today, if someone missed it, they can listen to us anywhere that you go. And so remember, support the show, $5, $10, or $25. It's value packed. We love it. We're out of time. So Robin, run the credits.